How's it going, fam? It's Erica with Not Your Average EDC, and tonight we are going to do the final review of the Spyderco Para 3 in S45VN blade steel with the Applied Weapons Tech Agent scales. The reason I'm doing the review like a day early is because I'm actually going to send this off to a friend of mine, David, who watches the channel, and he said that he really liked this colorway, so I figured I would just send this over to him. I don't need it anymore. I have enough Para 3s. So David, if you're watching, that's why I asked for your address earlier. I'm just going to gift this to you, and yeah, you can have it, okay? Let's get into the review. So I carried this for all of July. We weren't testing the model. I've tested that before. We were testing the scales. Last month I did the Applied Weapons Tech Agent scales, but they were the skinny ones, and these are the regular. So I was testing these to see if I prefer one over another. Still testing the Cerakote and then the blade steel from Spyderco, because I've tested S45VN before, but not Spyderco's. So let's get the scales out of the way, because that's going to be pretty cut and dry and simple. Also, sorry, quick thing, I'm like so sunburnt. I went to the beach today with Nicole and my face is roasted, so apologies for looking exhausted and sunburned. We only got a little burnt. Okay, the scales. If I had to choose the skinny scales or the regular, I guess I would choose the skinny, just because I do like that on the skinny scales I was able to really manipulate this knife a little bit more than I can with this palm swell here. Like, it's really not that noticeable, guys, but if I had to choose, I would choose the skinnies. These, however, with most grips are really comfortable. I actually like how much these fill the hand, and these scales held up incredibly well. I mean, for being beat on for a month straight pretty much, we do have some wear, but really nothing too crazy at all. It's just on the corners. So, very comfortable, very lightweight. They only run one of the liners, hopefully you can see that, just the compression lock side. The other liner does not have to be inserted. They are making these same scales for the Para 3 lightweight. You cannot use these scales or the skinny scales with the Para 3 lightweight. It's just set up different, so these are only for the original one. You have to wait for them to make those lightweight ones. But yeah, I did end up putting both washers in here and then just running one liner. I'm not sure if I was supposed to do that. I don't know if you're supposed to only do one washer and one liner, but I did both of them, and the knife is perfectly centered and the action is really nice on it. Can you see that? Centered, really nice. These scales are fantastic, guys. I've mentioned this before, but Applied Weapons Tech, their work is just incredible. Their machining is on point. I've never put together a knife from them and not had it, you know, center up. They're really, really nice scales, and I love how they feel in hand. I love all the different colors that they have for Cerakote. I just can't recommend them more, and I wish that I had more to say about it, but I've reviewed their products so many times that at this point it's just like, all I can say is yes, go buy them. Just yes, yes, yes. Whether they're the bug out scales or the Para 3, just buy them, okay? So, yeah. A+ on the scales. Zadie, if we could have 5 seconds. Zadie, can we have 5 seconds of peace and quiet? These dogs, man, they're cuckoo. Okay, let's talk about what was a little more interesting this month, because we have a lot going on right now in the community in terms of blade steel. We have MagnaCut that's coming into production knives like crazy right now. We just found out, yesterday, that Greg Medford is running his as soft as your baby's shit in its diaper, 58. That's hilarious. We have a lot going on with knife steels and heat treats and stuff. You know, it's all over the place right now. And we have steels that have been made for knives and steels that have not been made for knives. CPM S45VN was made for knives. It was made to be a blade steel for knives. It's stainless, it's supposed to be pretty dang tough, and it's supposed to keep an edge for a decent amount of time. The downfall to it is it can be pretty glassy, depending on the heat treat and what grit you sharpen it to. It can just be fucking glassy. I tinkered around with numerous stropping methods and sharpening methods this month with this Spyderco production S45VN, and it behaved exactly as it was supposed to. Now, I've said this before, Chris Reeve does S45. They're trying to get rid of it so they can move on to Magna Cut. We all know that. Their S45 was way more glassy than this. This is like, in my opinion, a true S45. I would guess that it's treated pretty high. If Zadie could just be quiet for like 5 seconds. They're acting like they're on fucking crack. Like, at least they're having fun. I am so sorry. It's like party time here. This behaved like a true S45 should. I feel like the Chris Reeve stuff, their S35 was soft as fuck and glassy as fuck. Their S45 was a step up, but still just not mind-blowing to me. This S45 is, this I can tell, it was made for EDC knives. This kept a fucking edge like a tank. Once I got past the burnt edge, the burnt factory edge, holy smokes, guys, this thing was really good. I put it up, the highest grit that I sharpened it to was 1,000, and it did fairly well on the 1,000 grit Japanese Nanawa Waterstone. It did fairly well. However, I noticed a significant difference in cutting performance when I used a 600 grit DMT diamond stone, which is just a fine stone. I used that. It gave it way more tooth, way more grit, and the edge longevity was light years ahead of putting it up to 1,000 grit. End of story. I think that this steel thrives on a toothy edge. I think if you move it up to 1,000 grit, it can do some tasks pretty well, but it tends to glass out and the edge gets pretty smooth and you don't have that bite that you need for a lot of EDC tasks. So I would generally just throw it on the 600 grit DMT stone, leave it toothy, maybe run it over a strop a couple times just to knock off any micro burrs or anything like that, and leave it alone. This, you gotta remember, guys, there are all types of crazy fucking steels that were made for ball bearings or steel rollers or automotive industry, or they're made out of leaf springs. But when you take a steel that was literally created, the composition in mind was created for an EDC knife, sometimes you just can't go wrong with that. And, you know, is this going to outperform Maximate? Fucking hell no, of course it's not. Maximate does have a lot of things going for it that are superior to S45VN. But you also have ease of sharpening with this. You also have toughness with this. Does that make any sense? This is going to be easier for a beginner to take care of and use and maintain than Maximate would, or Vanex would, or 4V. That's my point. And I hope that these steels don't lose their place in the community, because we have so many new steels coming out. We have so many different heat treats coming out. But this steel giving this geometry, the fairly thin, slicey geometry with a really nice heat treat on this S45, it's amazing. And if I could have 1,000 knives in an appropriate manner, this would be staying in my collection, but I don't need to be keeping everything that I get my hands on, even though it's absolutely incredible. I will be recommending Spyderco S45VN to everyone, because this was the knife that I was, it was like my backup knife. It was like just the knife that I could give to anyone at any time, and I knew that it would perform for them, and I knew that it wouldn't give out. A lot of my friends at work use my knives, and this was just the one that I said, hey, have at it, beat the shit out of it, go for it, and it was fantastic. So absolutely a steel that I would recommend to people learning how to sharpen, or just people that do everyday tasks, nothing crazy. it's really, really great. And I liked it much better than the Chris Reeve S45VN. And I know that the Chris Reeve knives, in theory, the edge, you know, it's thicker behind the edge. It's a different geometry, blah, blah, blah. I'm just telling you that on the stones, I could notice a difference. And this, the burr that this created, how quickly the burr came up, and how easily it was removed, and how crisp of an apex and edge it left was, in my opinion, much better than the way the steel moved with the Chris Reeve S45 on the same stones and everything. I just preferred the way that this, the composition of this steel, not the geometry, not the thinness behind the edge, nothing. The literal actual composition of this S45VN, like the heat treat, what the heat treat did to this specific S45VN, I liked better than whatever the heat treat did to the Chris Reeve S45VN. They're all the same composition, but I'm talking what the heat treat did to this blade. I like it better with Spyderco. I think Spyderco, I'm learning that their heat treats are on point. They're freaking good, guys. I'm noticing that Spyderco's heat treat is way better than Benchmade's. You know, I put them head to head all the time because I feel like Benchmade and Spyderco are, you know, they're both decent American production, you know, kind of like mass production companies, and I just feel that Spyderco does it better so far. I think Spyderco's heat treat is way fucking better. So, highly recommend Spyderco S45VN. I highly recommend the Applied Weapons Tech scales. This is a very lightweight but balanced, rugged model. Especially with these scales, it just feels completely different. It looks so badass. Like, I can recommend everything about it. So, David, I'll be sending this out to you probably Friday afternoon after work. So just, you know, keep an eye out for that. But guys, that kind of concludes the testing of this. Let me know if you have any questions down in the comments. I'm sorry that I didn't go like crazy in depth about it, but we've talked about a lot of this stuff before. So I basically wanted to make a video saying if I think you should spend your money or not on this. And my vote is yes. As a whole, with the steel, with the scales, as a whole, highly recommend. Let me know if you guys have any questions down in the comments. Go use your shit. Learn how to sharpen your knives. Do something kind for someone. That's Zach's saying. So, gonna send this off as a gift to do something kind for someone. I will see you guys soon. Love you all.